Coming to you live is the AutoHub show, changing automotive one show at a time with Ian and Jeff. And here we go.
Who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Hi, I'm Gail Rubenstein, the founder and CEO of a company called Retail Resilient, social selling for the car industry. And we help auto dealers, auto agencies, and vendors in the auto industry sell more cars, service more cars, and make more money using our social selling strategy. That includes TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and anything else you can think of. So if you're looking to invest thousands and make millions, we're definitely the social selling company for you. Like I said, who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
If you run a service drive, you know these days first impressions matter. But when your advisors are tied up with inbound phone calls, they tend to neglect their other, more important duties. And did you know 75% of all service calls are frequently asked questions in routine requests? Still, the average dealer misses up to 30% of inbound calls, adding up to a ton of missed service opportunity and increased customer churn. 68% of callers actually go elsewhere if they can't get through, which means you could be losing $60,000 to $70,000 every month in service revenue simply from missing calls. So who will pick up? Introducing Brooke.
Hi there.
Your best service scheduling assistant. Brooke is the first intelligent digital voice assistant to answer, handle, and appoint all of your inbound service calls. And talking to Brooke is like talking to a friend with human-level understanding in a friendly conversational voice. Her conversational intelligence is built on millions of actual service industry conversations. You really do check all the boxes. Book with Brooke today. Visit Brooke.ai or call 866-942-1236. Finally, the perfect match.
See that light above the bathroom door over there? That's a big time saver for our technicians and other recon staff. The light goes on when the bathroom is occupied. Now techs keep working until the light goes out. Then they know for sure the room is empty. Too often, the search for the right product burns valuable time. This inexpensive detailer's cart organizes supplies. Now techs lay their hands on what they need without delay. We got these time savers from Rapid Recon, the reconditioning software company that's always defining better reconditioning solutions for dealerships like yours. When the goal is to get cars through recon in 72 hours or less, every step, every minute, every better decision made helps towards that goal. For more recon efficiency ideas like these, talk to the recon experts at rapidrecon.com.
Hi, I'm Tony Letta. I'm the general manager of Fred Beans Kia. I just wanted to take a minute to, talk about Larry Feldman. I've been dealing with him for a long time for recruiting, and not just recruiting, but training. And one thing my salespeople are always asking me, whether they're new hires or whether they've been here for a while, is when's Larry coming back? He's always got great energy. He always keeps his material fresh and new and exciting, keeps people engaged. So I would highly recommend Larry.
Hello, this is another cut from AutoHub Show. Hope you're doing really, really well. Reason I'm here is I'm here for the BMW release party here of the, I think it's the X7, or sorry, the iX, and also the i4, I believe they have here as well. And it's an event here going on tonight at Brian Jeff's BMW. So if you're interested, definitely come by and take a look at what's going on in the BMW world in electric cars. Have yourself a great night.
Everybody, and welcome to our show at the Brian Jessel BMW 2023. We are launching today the new BMW 7 Series and i7 Electric for the first time. So anyway, we are also taking all our customers to our new milestones. Stay tuned and watch us launching the new BMW i7.
So here we are. I think a year ago, we were launching our first real electric cars, the i4 and the iX, right here. I think it was September. Lots of people still wearing masks at that time, so it's kind of nice that we're somewhat over it. Tonight we're going to unveil our next electric killer, but this one's not the everyday car. This is the luxury car of luxury cars. You're going to see this car, you're going to think Rolls-Royce, anything about Rolls-Royce. But it comes in two versions. It comes with an electric version, comes with an ICE version. Started off in a humble Abbotsford, Langley, Coquitlam, and moved ourselves all the way to Vancouver here. We've been the #1 selling dealership for BMW for 18 of those 36 years. And part of that's because we do stuff like this. This is who we are. We like to have fun, we like to have great parties, we like to take care of our customers, and we like to do things first class. And tonight, this is really a first class car. And so we wanted to put on a show that represents what the image and the product is that you're about to see. Make no mistake, there's the beautiful ladies with the sparkling silver dresses here. They were welcoming you, but they're also our iPad sales consultants tonight. So if you love this car, and I think you will, and you want to buy one, find one of these beautiful ladies, because they're going to have an iPad and they can take your deposit on a car tonight. And I guarantee you, I'll get you that car next year. So putting this out there, last year we sold 30 cars at the i4, i3 launch event. And I hope you have a great time tonight. We're going to put on a good show for you. So cheers, everyone.
As it is now, the iconic Brian Jessel BMW brand here in Vancouver. And since that time, through all the successive generations of 7 Series, our designers and engineers have sought to push the boundaries of luxury, to be the technological halo for the BMW brand, while at the same time delivering that dynamic and exciting driving experience that you all expect from BMW.
You can check me in the pit. I'm thinking next to the body now. Back to the village, you're never starting out.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Closest to the stage, first ever all-electric 7 Series, the i7. Further down into the showroom, the 760i X5 gasoline variant of the 7.
And a special thanks to all of our sponsors, including Larry Feldman, our latest sponsor and regular contributor, as you all know. Also, if you didn't see that YouTube video, because I was doing that for the first time, it is available on our YouTube channel, and it will be on our website as we launch this show. There's an extended version if you want to check it out. But a few book recommendations. Zappos, if you're not familiar, really interesting company. Happy Customers Everywhere from Bernd Smith. And then Jeffrey Gitomer, Customer Satisfaction is Worthless, Customer Loyalty is Priceless. So go ahead, Jeff, with our disclaimer. Jeff, you're muted. Jeff. Anyway, our disclaimer is on our website.
Unmuted. I had a fire truck go by, so I figured I would mute this and not bother everybody with the comings and goings. But again, thank you again for joining us. And our new updated disclaimer is that the same as the old one, only looking better, but the views and opinions expressed on the AutoHub show are those of our guest speakers and guests and do not necessarily represent the official policy of the AutoHub show or Ian Nethercutt or Jeff Polo, whether we agree or not. Ian.
Thank you. And we're just in case you're going to Las Vegas for driving sales, if you want to save, you can use the discount code AutoHub Show. Jeff and I will be live at the show, so if you want to meet us in person, we'll be there in Vegas. And if you're going to Used Car Week San Diego, we'll be there as well as part of the podcast panel. And let's get into it. So the show today is about, is true customer happiness really possible? So go ahead, Jeff.
And the one thing I do want to say about driving sales and the used car week, of course, if you're there, be expected to get caught up in our patented ambush interviews. So thank you again for everybody to join us. And our first question, I'm going to ask these questions, changing it a little bit, is I'm going to ask each of our guests as we introduce them to answer this question after they introduce themselves as well. But considering the industry is performing like never before, profits are coming in like gangbusters. You saw in the video, the giant chandelier in the dealership. They make that with money. And people are being forced to pay the price, whatever price, doesn't matter what the car is. If they want a car, they pay the price. If they want to get their car serviced, they almost have to do whatever they're being told. Is customer happiness really, truly possible in 2022? I'm going to ask Peter Duffy to introduce himself. This is the first time we have two people with the same name on, and answer that question briefly, please.
Peter Smith and Peter Duffy. I almost answered for Peter a few minutes ago. My name is Peter Duffy. I'm the CEO and founder of Dealer Image Pro. We have an in-house photo, video, and 360 content solution for auto dealers. We do have several dealers in Canada that we work with, but mostly in the US, a few in overseas in the Middle East, and then a good bunch down in Mexico. So to us, obviously, content is number one, and we specialize in uniformity across omni-channel sites and so forth.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that viewpoint. Then our next guest that we have joining us today is the other Peter, Peter Smith. Peter, if you could introduce yourself and give us your answer on is customer happiness possible now with the way things are?
Well, my name is Peter Smith. I've been in the business for over 35 years in a variety of roles. Currently, I am dealer partner in Canada for Mobile Dealer Data, which is an analytical tool for efficiency. However, I also operate the Lion Partnership, which is bringing in experts to automotive. My whole thought process on dealer or customer happiness in the current climate is it's near impossible without transparency. And right now, there is no transparency. I personally purchased a vehicle last week, and of the amount of time I spent, which was over 4 days, solid days, I had the pleasure of numerous bait and switches, overlisted, additional add-ons, and basically was told if I want the car, that's it. And even though that went against Ontario's ethical rulings, and I could have them fined, they didn't care.
Yeah, thank you so much. It seems to be a repeating thing that we're hearing from a lot of people right now, is that sort of comments. And our favorite line is going back to the 80s. But getting a dealer's point of view, we have here, of course, a good friend of our show, one of our favorite people is April Simmons, not April Horn, like I said before, from Horn Auto Group in Phoenix area. April, say hi, please introduce yourself and tell us your opinion on this.
Good morning. And, it's always an interesting one. I actually kind of chuckle about this one because you're right, Peter, number two, that people have been a little bit aggressive about the approach. And so one of the things I've worked with my staff on is saying, look, people expect to overpay right now. The expectation. So I think the transparency thing is it's still there. It's okay to charge what needs to be charged or whatever the market yields. That's the way it's always been, whether it's high or it's low. And as long as you're outlining that and being transparent and telling people, here's what it is, and how can you help them if maybe they want the most sought after vehicle, well, then those are the ones that unfortunately you probably are going to have to pay a little higher premium for. But if you're willing to wait, or you're willing to take a different type of vehicle, then perhaps not. And that's just good old fashioned supply and demand. That's not dealers being evil. Now, the part where I do think that you can cause some unhappiness is when we say it in those fashions, right? Like, take it or leave it, have a nice day. Like, we don't care about people. And I think that that's the thing we have to be, careful of. However, here's what I find interesting. If we go back 3, 4, 5 years and you look at, customers who are the happiest are the ones who pay the most. And that's always been the way. And shockingly enough, even today, that's still the case. The customers who are actually leaving in a car, they're still happy. They're really happy. The ones that aren't happy are the ones that left not in a car. So I think that that's what we're seeing. That's what we're watching. And these unhappy customers that are mad, they're the ones yelling and screaming. But the customers who are leaving in a car, they're very happy. They're not, they're not thinking that we're evil people. They understand the state of the economy right now, and that we have to do what we have to do as well. So I do think customers are happier than we think they are.
You could very well be true there. The fact is, it's how we, one of the things that I learned a long time ago is managing expectations. And if you say to somebody, come on down, I've got, Peter Smith said he just picked up a Wrangler, a plug-in hybrid, and say, yeah, I got one here, come on down, you can pick it up today. Then you get down there, they show you the vehicle, it dices, it slices, it does this, it does that. Oh, by the way, it's $25,000 over MSRP. You got to pay it if you want it. However, if you say, I have one here, but I want you to understand right now, due to supply and demand, we have to charge extra. Please come down if you want to look at it. Way different story.
Yeah.
And if you tell somebody that and they're still unhappy because they paid over, I apologize, Peter, if that's the case.
No, I didn't.
It is all managing expectations. I do want to just acknowledge, even though we're not official guests today, is Barry, Don and Tim. Dom, oh my God. And thanks for joining us. Ian, take the next question, please.
Well, Barry is a guest today, I believe, as is Tim, I believe, but go ahead.
My apologies.
Talk about happiness. It just went away.
Last minute changes. But go ahead, Tim.
Well, always a hoot on Monday mornings to be here with you guys, and to see familiar faces that have been here with me in the past. Tim Hayden, I'm the CEO of Brain Trust, and not just in the automotive industry, but across a number of verticals. We're in the business of helping people wrangle all their first-party data so they can have empathy with their customers, so they can make them happy and grow revenue through retaining the customers they already have. And I think that really says a whole lot, at least in my mind, it does, of course. It says a lot of the jam that the automotive industry is in, specific to the audience here. Everyone's been wrapped up in the transaction. Everybody wants to move metal. Everybody needs a car or wants to buy a car, and all they think about is the transaction. Nobody thinks about it beyond that. That's where happiness dissipates, right? That's where we start to lose sight of who the human was, who the family was behind the human, behind who the neighbors are that live around the person who bought the vehicle, right? And there's all kinds of opportunities to do that in my world through data, but also what I just think is, it's a sign of the times right now. I don't care that I agree with April 100%. It's supply and demand is what's causing the prices to go high as they are right now. But at the end of the day, what we're talking about is happiness. And I don't think dealers have any idea what that means, really. I think they've just lost sight of it because they've been put in this squeeze to move metal, and most recently to do so with really large margins.
Fantastic. Barry, I mean, you talk to customers all the time, but more importantly, you talk to customers on behalf of different businesses, including car dealers. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
So Barry Jordan, founder of Touchpoint, which is a power dialer that focuses primarily in the automotive world. And we can put agents into a position where they're making over 50 calls an hour to your database. And so we see a lot of conversations. We see a lot of positive conversations. We're hearing stories where, you know, salespeople are greeting the truck when it pulls into the lot to peel the Monroney stickers off the windows and make sure that they get those out of the windows as fast as they can so that they can set the prices. You know, I think we're in a seller's market. We come out of a buyer's market. Nobody was complaining about how much money dealers were losing at a certain point. They, you know, hitting month end, losing $1,000 on a car just to hit a target, whatever the case may be. Now it swings the other way, and everybody's crying their tears in their tea. And I just don't think that that's the right story. We're in a position where the dealerships are making some money. I think where you get a little stumbly is where you're not being consistent in what you're maybe overcharging for a certain model. Yes, maybe the market has changed, but to, you know, take advantage of the proverbial grandma that's buying her last car and hitting her for 12 grand over gross, and then the next person pays $1,000 over gross. I think that's where some of the people start to get a little bit disconnected, in the sense that, you know what, if that car is selling for $5,000 over what the manufacturer thought it would be, then sell it to everybody for that much. And I don't think that that's, to April's point, I think, you know, well spoken, April. I don't think that that's a problem at all. I think where you get the problem is you get that brand newbie who thinks he can triple the price of the car and retire 2 months into his career, and he's gone in 90 days and ruined the dealership, and he's got a bunch of 1-stars, and he's ruined the CSI, and all because he was trying to make some money. So anyway, that's my opinion. I think the pendulum swung. It'll swing back, and I hope the dealers remember these people that they're burying in these cars, and they're trying to do pull aheads, and they're trying to do all this other stuff. Is it short-lived? Yeah. Are they putting lots of money on the bottom line? Yeah.
So
go ahead.
I add to that. So I think the bigger question here is the customer having a good experience rather than is it true customer happiness? Because if you go to a nice steak restaurant and you're going to buy a nice steak and a nice meal, you actually don't mind paying for it so long as it's a good experience. So to lend to April's comments, you can't have the customer walk in the door, and I'm on the outside of this, right? I don't work in a dealership, but you can't walk into a door and go, nope, it's 25 over, and if you don't want it, get out. Instead, how about transforming that into an experience, just like this BMW party? That looked like a great time, and making that worth the extra money so that later, to lend to Barry's comments, later they're going to come back and go, no, they did charge us over because that was the market at the time, but I did have a great experience, so I'm going to go back to that place.
So Peter, to your point, can you imagine if you went into a restaurant and it was 8:30 at night and you sat down and you wanted to order the steak and they said, well, I know it says $25 on the menu, but there's only 2 left.
But we're all getting out of
here. $45 now.
It's $30 extra. Yeah, right.
I'd just like to add to that comment. One of the great team meetings that I would have with my sales teams were I'd ask them what was the most they paid for a hamburger and what's the least they paid for a hamburger. And I said, what's the difference? And every single one said the experience.
Yep.
And people understood you could buy a hamburger for $4 or you could buy a hamburger for $20. When you bought a $20 hamburger, you wanted that experience and you wanted to be treated right, not just thrown at you on a plate. And people had no problem paying $20 for a hamburger.
I paid $55 for a hamburger in Madrid, Spain at the Ritz-Carlton. It was the best experience I've ever had.
Yeah.
Sure. But the worst is paying $20 for a hamburger and the server's a jerk.
Right?
Like you don't want that.
Well, but that's kind of what's happening across the board. I mean, automotive's getting a lot of grief, but when's the last time you went to a restaurant and had the best customer service? Once in a while, but I gotta tell you, they're strapped thin too. I think there's an epidemic of lack of customer service across all industries, as far as I can tell. And if we're talking about true happiness, it comes from the fact that there's an attitude, in my opinion, across the board of, well, I don't have to provide customer service anymore. I don't have to care about your happiness because nobody's going to hold me accountable to it.
Right.
And there's a
What can we do
lack of
about that,
accountability to
right?
providing happiness to our customers, no matter what industry you're in.
Right.
Right.
April, you're absolutely right. You know, I live in the Naples, Florida area, which is pretty well to do, and we see that occurring, especially as the season is starting. We have the snowbirds coming back soon, and that there is a shortage of workers currently, and we can see a deterioration of the service and even the best restaurants, which traditionally would not be tolerated at all.
And grocery stores, and I mean, I can go on and on and on. I mean, is there any space where you feel like you're getting, you know, good service? And good service is what I think creates happiness, you know? And so we all agree with that. Yet for some reason we're yelling at dealers more than anywhere else. And I just think it's
they're just more visible. I mean, I think it's always been that way.
Easier to find. Buildings are big.
Business, you know, we're more visible. That's all. But
well, we started April, so you know it's an easier leap.
Okay, I have a segue here. I have a question. Where have all the people gone? The people on this show today are from very diverse different markets, as far away as Florida, here in British Columbia, Canada, up in the great green north, Barry in Alberta, Peter somewhere in the Toronto, Greg, Ontario area. Nobody's got people. Where did everybody go?
No, that's true. The people have disappeared, and unfortunately, it's so many people have gone to. I just want to remote work now, and if the remote
They're
work
not serving beverages remotely. I don't know. Remotely, you know, it's an amazing thing to me. I mean, I am since COVID came, I'm working remotely. I don't like it. I want to be in dealerships. I can't get in. It's hard to get back into dealerships. I just traveled to Philadelphia for a week, and I'm going to be out in Las Vegas in another 2 weeks. That's the extent of my travel. Or I go 2 hours across Alligator Alley to see some clients. If I go down the street, you barely get 20 minutes with the dealer. They're all owned by Terry Taylor, and it's you know, he owns like I don't know how many dealerships he owns, but he controls who they see and what they know. It's very hard for independents or smaller entrepreneurs to make their way. No, you're dealing with smaller venues, so to speak. So it's very interesting. I was out shopping like other guys were, and it's starting to break here. There is some negotiation. I'm looking for pre-owned cars that are certified, and it's interesting. There is some negotiating going on, but there's still in Florida, you know, there's a dealer nearby that has lifetime storage guards for $1,000. Plastic storage guards that you put on a car, $1,000 besides the whatever it costs because of the market to have access to the Honda that's on a lot and whatever. And whatever the normal in Florida, you can charge anything you want for a dock fee. So there's 3 ways that they're grabbing a customer without helping them. In fact, the local Morgan dealer just lost a very high quality GSM who was with them for 2 years, but had been across the state with the Toyota dealer for 23 years and went back to another Toyota dealer. So clearly he left because of the customer experience. He wasn't delighted by what his boss was generating, and he wasn't happy with the experience he was witnessing. He couldn't control his own people and what they were, you know, putting out.
Interesting. Peter, did you have any thoughts on people? Peter Duffy?
Yes, I was thinking about, again, what April was saying and what we were talking about across all industries. And so instead of saying, hey, this is what's going on, we have to start thinking about what are we going to do about it, right? So I know within our culture, I'd like to think we have a great culture here. at Dealer Image Pro. And our whole thing is customer first, our employees, and then the product itself. And so I'm in the same boat with you, April. Like you go to a restaurant and you pay for a family of 4 for a decent meal, about 120 US at this point, plus tip. And so the food needs to be great and the service should be great. But if it's not, then it kind of ruins the meal a little bit. So what are we going to do about that? And I think it starts with us. So if you're a leader, you're showing these people at your employees or your team members like, hey, listen, no matter how great it is with these gross markups and everything that's going on, we want these customers 5-6 years from now when we're not going to have this heyday we're in right now. So the better we treat them now, the better, and they'll come back, and the better they're treated, the better the experience they're having, you'll have those customers come back. So it starts with us. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And then in terms of employees, stop whining, just run the Indeed ad and find them. We find them all the time. We're an in-house photo solution, so we often have dealers sign up with us and they go, oh, we can't find a photographer. And like, we'll put an ad out, and usually we'll take our director of operations and have them run an ad for the dealership, find them 5 candidates, and usually find 1 or 2 that are particularly great. So it's like, do you want to do the work or not? Are you going to keep whining, or are you going to do the work? And so it takes a little bit of work on our part too. There is a general, this job, I'm too good for this job, or I want to work at home. There's that, but good people are there, and we can find them, and we find them every day. So it's about mentality, right? I'm going to succeed, or I'm not going to succeed. The current times have nothing to do with how I succeed.
Great. One of my favorite quotes is no one owes you a goddamn thing, from Clint Eastwood. And I think that's a quote that I think of every single day, especially as I see this around me. But
I think I tell my kids that all the time.
I mean, April, what do you think about people?
Well, I think if we want to retain our customers, our focus has to be on retaining our employees. Yes. So I think to start customer retention, it starts with employee retention. And right now, you're not gonna be head and shoulders above your competition in a monetary sense. So it really is about culture. You have to have a place where people want to work so that you can actually hold them accountable. Accountability is probably the hardest thing for any of us right now, because there is a little bit of an attitude like, well, you tell me I have to do this, but I can go next door and they don't make me do that, so I'm going to go next door. And so there is a little bit of an attitude problem where accountability starts to be really difficult. However, if you have a spot where nobody wants to leave you because they are happy, they enjoy the family, they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves, then you don't tend to have people wanting to leave. On the flip side, people are wanting to come to you. And once people want to come to you and work with you, now you can hold them accountable because they actually do have a fear of loss. If they work for you and they have no fear of loss at all, then it's really hard to get them to do the things that they need to do to provide your customers with the right experience. And therefore you lose both.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching a thing this morning on Japan, and what they were saying is the problem in Japan is that people have jobs for life. So the challenge is you want to innovate as a country with a declining population base age-wise, but people are conditioned to never being fired, even if they're incompetent. And they were like, that's combined with not a raise in income, but people don't care because they don't get fired. So I thought that was really interesting.
And that's kind of where we are now, right?
Wasn't
like
Japan.
A victim.
Yeah.
We're all victims of our employees right now.
Yeah.
And we have to, how do you take that back? How do you take them and make the tables balance? Well, I think it just comes down to caring about your employees the way we want them to care about our customers.
100%.
Yeah.
Could not said it better. Can I just add one more thing to that too? Stop with the negotiating entry-level jobs at this, whatever the smallest amount that you can pay them. If everyone's making a ton of money, it should You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a capitalist at heart. I'm an entrepreneur, but you need to pay people what they're worth. You cannot
Absolutely.
expect to have an entry-level worker running around, getting dirty in the heat, in the cold, in the stuff, and then pay them minimum wage. Like you
Right.
need to pay them $2-3 more per hour so that they feel like they're taken care of. And then, as April said, take good care of them and work them into the culture. Make them feel like there's something bigger that
You know, every position has benefits to it. Really, it does. Like one of the things I mentioned earlier, we have a power dialer for dealerships, and sometimes dealerships aren't in a position to maybe make the calls, so they'll ask us if they can send us a script, and we'll do the calls for them. So onto the local market we go, and yes, we do not pay minimum wage, and we offer work from home. There's tons of single moms working from home that have tons of skill and talent and work ethic, and they make a dial session, they make a bunch of calls, they do this, they do that. We go on, we pay them within 5 minutes of doing their dial session. The money's sitting in their account. We just e-transfer it. And we just make it as easy as we conceivably can for these people. And they love working for us because they can work around their life. That's how we've structured it. Everything is very scripted. It's very easy for them. The technology is very simple. They don't have to be a rock star to do it. It fits around their life, and we have a huge pool that we draw from because we've found that niche where we got these people that are working from home. We're paying really well. If their baby starts crying, they stop their session for 10 minutes and no one freaks out at them, and they go back to work when they're done, and they text us that say that they're done their session. We confirm it and we send them money. It's honestly that easy. We don't overthink it.
Tim, you had a thought? Thanks, Bert.
You absolutely. No, I mean, I don't know, it's about 2 months ago on this very show, we were talking about, I think I told a story from my childhood of growing up with Sewell in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, with Sewell Cadillacs and Lexi, I said, in my driveway, right? And honestly, what was the experience then? It was that my dad always had one person to call. And where I think we are right now, we have a lack of bodies. We're killing ourselves over not having enough bodies. Now is the time, I think, for many dealers, not all, but many dealers have got to understand we don't need specialists. We need generalists. We need people who understand the customer experience, to April's point, taking care of the customer, not worrying about the measures of success on sales, on parts, on service, or in all due respect to BDCs and auto dialers, not outsourcing everything. Let's bring it back in-house and let's train everybody up in multiple disciplines. And of course, shocker if I'm not going to be the one to say it, because if you have that single customer record that you can share across the organization, you've got a huge opportunity for anybody and everybody to be able to care for somebody there. So I don't know who that was that was
background.
Someone talking in the back.
Yeah. Anyway, you heard me. I mean, I think we're at a point right now. I mean, everybody, this is present times are not going to change. They are not going to change. The market, it's never been more competitive. Yeah, cars are not going to cost as much. They're going to cost less. Something's going to happen in terms of the pricing, supply and demand. We've already covered that. But at the end of the day, what we're going through right now is the time, I think, for folks to say, and I say this, dealers, to say we don't need specialists, we need generalists, and we need them across the organization.
So when it springs back, it's going to be, you will not keep your people if you don't do it now. Right. If you do it right now while it's easy, while everybody's making money, then you have a chance. But we will see the biggest movement in employee and automotive ever when it does start to swing the other way, because we have a lot of people who do not know how to sell a car today, or how to take care of a customer, or how to, bump somebody on the service drive, any of it, because they literally just go, this is, I just show up, clock in, clock out kind of mentality. So
that's right.
It's going to be a real interesting thing if we don't start today.
That's right.
You know what I call to add to that, April, what I find interesting too is if I was just doing a little bit of research on your dealer group, and you guys look like you're very progressive and very good at what you guys do down there. And so if we all agree that online transactions are going to increase and walk-ins are decreasing, and their last their last experience with a walk-in was $8,000 over MSRP, and they go back into market 5 years from now when online purchasing has just jumped, well, you're not going to see them in your dealership ever again, because you left such a bad taste in the mouth, and now they have a different opportunity. They can buy across state, they can buy from the Northeast, they can buy from wherever they want now that they're back in market, and they're not going to come back in your door if that was a bad experience. They just won't. So if you got a 10-year or 15-year plan in your dealerships, I think everybody needs to be looking pretty closely at what they're currently doing.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at restaurants, I mean, I think the statistics say that it's the third experience that dictates whether or not that person comes back. If the first one's bad, they're never coming back. So it's going to see how that appeals to the auto industry. Peter Smith, we left you out, so go ahead.
Well, I was looking at that single point of contact, and I agree with it 100%. If you look at Paragon Honda in California, they rapidly rose to one of the top dealers in the country by going to the single point, and they dropped 32% of their staffing needs to do so. And the generalist idea works tremendously. And I know I might not look old enough, but I remember back in the day when we searched for cars on microfiche, and
awesome.
And,
everybody's smiling. Everybody's smiling.
And with microfiche, it was like you got it from the OEM once a week, and that's where the cars were 3 weeks ago, and you didn't know if they were sold or not, and there was no computers, there was no emails, and everything was done on a piece of paper with pen. And you filled out everything from bank contracts, everything. You sent off the bank contracts to get approved, and they came back, and you were chasing the customers all over the place to get everything done. So I understand the single point. It's a hell of a lot easier now than it was back then. And Colin Richardson, a contact that I have on LinkedIn, is so much a proponent of it, and I agree with him absolutely, because I don't want to go into a dealership and go through 5 different places to get my car, and I don't want each one to be a profit center. I believe that a generalized profit in the dealership should be made up in one singular transaction, not multiples. And that's just me as a customer, not me as a dealer. I understand that F&I has a profit margin, detail has a profit margin, new car sales has a profit margin, wholesale has a profit margin, everything has a profit margin. And we got to condense that down, and that's going to bring, again, happiness back to the customer, because the customer at that point is not thinking, hey, how many times, like, it's like going to the dentist. You go to the dentist and you got to go see the hygienist, and the hygienist is going to clean your teeth. Then you have to get your checkup by the dentist. He's got to take a little piece out of you, and then you got to book your next appointment right away, because that you don't do that, and you just leave the dentist going, oh, I just feel violated. And it's the same way when you're dealing with multiple points in the dealership. And I think this, as April said, this is the time to do it. Change it while you have the opportunity. Train your people while you have the opportunity, because we all know the storm is coming, and the storm is called inventory. It's coming. And once the inventory hits, then it's back to rebates, interest rate dealings, this, that. And then competition comes into play, and once competition comes into play, so it's called pant dropping, and then at that point everyone's crying the blues, because now we're selling 30 or 40% more cars for the same amount of money and same amount of profitability, and because we're selling more cars, we need more staff, so our labor costs go up. And
sorry, Peter, to capitalize on that, to go back to what I'm talking about, if you sold a guy an $8,000 over MSRP deal, and 2 years from now they have another baby and they need a different car, and they go see another dealership, that dealership's throwing you under the bus so hard, so fast, and they're gonna bury you. Like you will never go
Of
back.
course, but this is rinse and repeat, Barry. I mean, this is stuff that we've all done every single time we've gone through every economic switchback, right? So we went through cash for clunkers, and we went through, the economy, and we went through gas prices surged, and people weren't even taking SUVs and on trade, refused to take SUVs and on trailer trucks. So this is not, to me, this isn't new. I feel like we all know what's coming, and we all know exactly how it's going to play out. And you're right, Barry, that's exactly what's going to happen. So the best we can do is be proactive about it now, make sure that we're holding on to those customers, so we at least get the first opportunity of conversation. And how do we do that? Make sure they're in your service drive, make sure that they are coming in for every single service, so that when they get pregnant and they're ready to have that baby, you at least get an opportunity to talk to them first.
And you can manage it. And you can manage it. Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, April,
It's Monday morning and I'm feisty.
Well, to your point, and it's been said ad nauseum now, right? Now is the time, right? Because when that inventory comes back, guess what? Everyone will have the opportunity to live life without oil changes, without spark plugs, without belts, right? They're going to need brakes. They're going to need new tires. They're going to need certain things. But if you're not doing everything April's merchandising the experience to be, and to be intensively happy and nice and empathetic right now, if you're not doing that, as this inventory comes back and people do go get their first plug-in hybrid, their first BEV, it's game over. If you have not looked at that relationship and
I have to add something to that too. I have to add something to that, Tim. Everybody's talking about now, and I've been through this a long time. I know I look younger than Peter, but I've been around a long time. But everybody's always saying, oh, we've changed, we're better, we're different, we're this, we're that. This is my 20th time I've heard this.
Right.
And we're going to go back to the old ways. All of a sudden, inventory's in. The same salesman that said to Peter, well, guess what? You know what? You're going to have to do this. You ain't going to get it. It's going to go, no, come here. I'll tell you what if I give you? 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 We have to manage what we're going to do today for tomorrow.
I agree, but just real quick, but throw one little thing out there. Last week, the Tesla haters of the world cheered when there was a recall of 1.1 million vehicles. Over the weekend, Tesla zapped everybody who's driving a Tesla and said, do not bring it to the store. We're going to update the firmware and fix it. We're going to try to fix it remotely. Okay.
Overnight.
That's what's different about now. That's what's different about now. And the thing I said earlier about electrification, it's just these are existential changes, I think, for many dealers. If they haven't for this 21st time, to your point, the now means something. It really does. It means something different this time.
But it's Larry Feldman. The changes are with the technology, the culture, and the people. Jeff's right there, and April's right with that. That's never changed. If you put your arm around somebody and say, listen, I know it seems a little high. We'd like to give you a little more, rather than throw the thing at them and say, that's what you want or not. It's always how you say it, how sincere you are, and how interested you are, and what kind of follow-up you do. That's not going to change if we got damn robots doing it.
Right. Except today you can't put your arm around somebody, Larry.
Hey, listen, I settled that lawsuit, okay? I didn't know she was a nun. Stop it.
You had a thought on this? You've been very...
So I wanted to just connect the dots there. So if we're talking about true customer happiness, and then we've concluded that we need to make sure we give them an experience, right? And then with what April said is making sure that your employees feel like they're part of something bigger. And if we do that, then they're having a good experience, and that's going to directly translate over to your customers. So the connection here is happiness for the customer equals having good people paid well and them being happy, and then it represents everything you're doing dealership wise to what Larry just said. Put your arm around them, feel good, make them feel good about coming in there. That's a super important thing.
And as April stated, that as the cycles come and go, if you've got good people, you will always get through the cycle better.
They'll always win.
The other person.
Always win.
Because there's another cycle coming in 2 years, as you stated, and I agree with all those 100%. I have 30 years in the business. I've seen them all too. And And it just makes a difference of who you got answering the phone, who you got greeting your customers, who you got talking to in service, how you're porting their car around for them, who's washing their car for them. Everything just makes a huge difference.
Just one thing there, gentlemen, and April. With the Tesla experience, as you were mentioning, that Tesla announced a 1.1 million car recall, and then they said 2 days later we're going to do it over the air because we figured out the firmware. Having owned 5 Teslas now, and each one was a dumber purchase than the last one before it. The Tesla contacted me a year and a half ago and said, "Oh, your screen is one of the screen that's failing. You'll have to book it in for a service." Okay, great. Over a year and a half ago, still haven't gotten my service, even though it was booked because they can't supply. My front hood latch, which, as you know, hoods on Teslas open up towards the windshield rather than away from the windshield like old sports cars. It was a failure, never got replaced because they didn't have the parts. Tesla has great marketing to compensate for failure. They do have great, and so when you talk about happiness, I'm so glad that my wife got in the accident, that she's safe, but the car is gone for good now. And it's a great battery, a horrible execution on a car.
But how beautiful is it, the irony that the people that buy these cars, for the most part, tend to be a little wealthier and a little more elite, and they're the people that want their butt kissed the most. So, they virtue signal their way into a product where the people are ambivalent about helping them.
Yeah. Oh, it's unreal.
To be fair,
use justice.
To be fair, though, Tesla started, let's say, 10 years ago, right? And they're selling full electric cars, not internal combustion. They're single-handedly, you could argue, single-handedly changed the direction of all of these other OEMs to go electric, right? They made the push and did it in front of everyone. And then I'm American as apple pie. I'm super happy that an American company has come through with this kind of innovation in the time we live in, whether you believe in climate change or whatever you believe in. The point being here is we do need to change to sustainable transportation, and they have single-handedly made that happen. If the shortcomings are you don't get your hood latch, well, guess what? There's not a lot of microchips either, so there's not a lot of inventory. So it's like everything has a little give and take and pros and cons to it. But the truth is Tesla is leading the pack all the way across the board. So
about that,
checks in the mail, Peter. Don't worry about it.
It'll get better and better. We were talking earlier about Lucid. Like, if you wanted to buy a Lucid right now, good luck getting that thing serviced. I mean, they only have 200 cars on, in the whole United States out right now. So it's like, you got to take the good with the bad. But Peter has more experience than me if he's had 5 of them. So I don't know.
Jeff,
I'm still driving internal combustion.
Jeff, next question.
I don't know. This one's going really good. I don't really want to derail it, but who in the dealership actually creates the opportunity for customer happiness? Before I ask anybody this, we all have our opinions. Yeah, is it the boss? But the boss does this. Is it the frontline person? Who is it that actually creates the opportunity for customer happiness, and why? I'm going to go first to the dealer, which is April.
I think it's always the person in front of the customer, because no matter what, I've worked in some crappy dealerships through my years, right? And I've worked with some horrible bosses, and I've worked with people who've been like, "You go tell that son of a blah, 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 blah," and screaming at you, right? Like, we've all been there. It still happens today. And go downstairs, it's what's happening. But ultimately, who is responsible for the customer's happiness? The person who goes out and talks to the customer, right? So if I go out to the customer, I just got my head ripped off and tell them, go tell them this. That doesn't mean I go tell them that. It means I go out there with a smile, I sit down, I say, okay, so what you wanted to have accomplished probably isn't going to happen, right? And you have to serve it up. So I think ultimately customer happiness comes down to, and it's a responsibility of the person in front of the customer at all times, whether it's a receptionist, it's the greeter, it's the boss, it's the closer, it doesn't matter who it is. If you're in front of a customer and you're giving them a crappy attitude, then you are going to take their positive vibes down to zero. So whoever's in front of them.
Thank you. Peter Smith, I know we talked before we went live about your wonderful experience. Who do you think it is?
I agree with April. It is the customer facing individual, whoever it is. It could be the receptionist to the car washer, to the porter, to the valet guy, to the salesperson, to whoever is in front of that customer is responsible and accountable for that person at all times.
Right.
It's imperative that we train these people to understand empathy and why the customer is there. The customer is there. Nobody goes to a car dealership. Nobody. Unless you have a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or possibly a Porsche dealership, not many people are going there just to walk around and look at things. They're going for a reason. You got to understand what that reason is. Pull that reason out of the customer through empathy and understanding. Create a form of rapport and transparency, and move forward to understand how to accomplish what they're there for. They go there for a reason, and that is the primary focus point. And if you can do that, you will ensure happiness, because there is no reason for that person to go and endure it again and again and again and again. Like I said, when I purchased the Wrangler, I literally had 3 bills of sale before I got to the dealership that actually supplied me with the car. And each time I had made an agreement with them, because I went on Chrysler to find out where the cars were, started calling the dealerships that had the cars, made deals with them, understood that I was in the business, yada, yada, yada. And I just said, sell it to me at MSRP. I'm happy. Just don't drag me through the mud and add another 400 pounds of weight on me. That's it. I'll buy it. Here's my credit card. Send me the bill of sale. I don't care. Simple. And I started with dealerships that were over 400 miles away from me, because they had the exact car I wanted. And each time after we made an agreement, it changed and it came back to me, and it was just ridiculous. Understand what I wanted. If you're agreeing with me, great, let's move forward. And I ended up getting a dealership that it was 20 kilometers away from my house, just 16 miles. And I got the car I wanted, and it was easy. I was in and out driving, and in Canada, we don't have spot deliveries. So I was in and out of the dealership within 4 hours with my truck. So I was happy.
To correct that, in Southern Ontario, you don't. In BC, if you don't roll them on the spot before they come out of the ether, they may not come back. The other thing I had to mention, Peter, is you hit something on nail on the head there. I can't remember who it was that taught me. I think it was Jackie B. Cooper. That goes way back.
Yeah, I know.
Wow. There's only 2 types of people that come into a dealership. And that's people who want to buy a car, people who wish they can buy a car. So it's a wanter or a wisher. And Tim, tell me what's your take on this? Who's the person that makes a difference?
I have, marginally more to add to what's already been said. And that is, it's whoever the customer is standing in front of, right? It's that last impression. It's that first impression, not always in that order. Right. But, I think we've got to do better, and we've said it when we've answered at least 2 of the previous questions. It's not limited to the automotive business. It is every business. It is every single vertical and every industry right now. We have to care more about the people who open their wallets to us, or the people who spend time with us and trust us, looking for that one thing on the at the dealer. And I guess a quick example is, working with Brian Benstock when I did at Paragon Honda, he looked at the service call of people calling in and saying that their Honda Accord had a check engine light. It wasn't about saying, hey, we can get you in next Thursday. It was about asking the question, when would you like to bring your car in? It was that simple. It was about putting them in the position to say their time, their vehicle, they dictate when to bring it in, not me with X time or some other bay management thing telling me what's available, right? So
Tim, sorry.
At the end of the day, it's about at that level, it's about understanding the customer and respecting the customer. And it doesn't matter who it is. It's got to be everybody that's on the floor and everybody who's on the phones and everybody who's in the shop.
And I think you also have to talk about the upper
Hey, Tim,
management.
can I?
Because if you want to know what somebody honestly thinks of you, look at how their children treat you. And you will know instantly if that owner is bought into customer service or not by what the experience in that dealership is. And I think it's all the way from the top down.
I'm with you 100%, because if they don't set the culture, the people aren't going to buy into the culture and roll through with it. We've all been there. If the managers are beating the hell out of you and the owner doesn't care, the salespeople aren't going to care. They smell that stuff immediately.
Or snickering in the back about, whatever, we don't have to get him his car today, or don't tell him about the scratch, or whatever, this or that. It's a culture, and if they don't do it, it'll never trickle down. Well, it always trickles down, but it's what do you want to trickle down?
It's the manager. It's the manager that walks out and the operator says, you got a call, boss. He says, tell him I left. That sears into salespeople's brains, as opposed to, let me go grab it real quick in front of the salespeople. Maybe it's a guy with a problem I can fix, or somebody who wants to buy something. Yeah. Somebody's got to set the culture.
Agreed.
But what about too, like the fact that we force employees, still today to work when they're sick, or maybe they're not mentally in it to win it? Is that really the person you want to go talk to your customer, knowing good and well that they're not going to have a good attitude? Yet we still in automotive have this thought process of, you have to be here, you have to still go talk to so-and-so customers. Well, maybe today's not the day that they should if they're not in it to win it.
Yeah. Well, April, you're agreeing with me then. That's upper management. That's not setting a culture. That's not showing you care about your employees. They'll never care about the customers.
Exactly.
April, you've entered the danger zone when you agree with Larry. Just kidding. Peter Duffy, I'll have you be the last person to address this question, and before we finish the show.
Okay.
The question is who's the person? Who dictates customer satisfaction, customer happiness?
I think it's across the board, right? Whoever's in front of the customer, but it also goes to what Larry and April, everyone is saying basically is you can't expect that employees are going to treat customers well, because maybe they just don't know how. And so making sure from the top down that they know how to do that, doing some role playing at entry level stuff, having some sort of meeting around this, just a 1 hour on, are the employees having a good experience? If they're all sitting there like, they're smelling bad smells, they're not going to treat the customers very well either. So it's the person in front of the customer. We recently just added a dealer success manager because when we were smaller, we were able to talk to everyone. We knew everyone. But as we grew over the course of the last 2 or 3 years exponentially, we have people we don't know. We have customers we don't know. And so we hired, or we took someone from within, a woman who's doing an amazing job in our quality control, who already had contacts throughout our entire organization, and just moved her right up and said, all right, Alondra, this is what we're going to do from this point forward. You're going to review every dealer's website. You're going to tell them what they're doing great, what you can do to improve them. They don't have time to improve their website, right? So you need to do it for them, or at least mark it out so that everything is really clear, and make sure they sign off on it and set expectations and so forth. But being able to have that human connection, even general managers don't have a lot of time, right? They write 1-word sentences. They don't reply all. We know all this, right? The dealers need their hands held through their whole thing because they're busy out selling the last month. That's their job, right? So being able to, as a good vendor, being able to do do the things for them and have them look back, and when another vendor walks in the door, it's easy for them to go, no, Alondra just helped me with a ton of stuff and made our website updated. We're not going to switch over to something that I don't know. We're comfortable where we are. So making sure the customer is happy and having a successful transaction is, I mean, it's right up front with the person that's interacting with them, for sure.
Perfect. Well, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. My apologies for the beginning for missing out on Tim and Barry. I should be shot. But what a lively conversation. I enjoyed this show immensely. It's very nice, and Ian and I aren't sitting there, checking our questions out, and we're doing this and looking at everybody talking. And thank you all for joining us. Peter Duffy, Peter Smith, thank you. April, as always, Larry, of course, we need our deep knowledge and comic relief, and Tim and Ian, I'll leave it to you to close the show.
Yeah,
and Don, of course.
Special thank you to Don and Justin as well for always adding some value and thoughts and questions. And just so you know, if you want to watch that entire launch video, it's on our YouTube channel in a little bit longer version. I really recommend, and have yourself a great week. Thanks very much.
You too. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Have a
y'all.
great day.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Podcast on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and of course on our YouTube, or subscribe to our own channel.
Ciao.
Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us. It was a great show, and follow us anywhere you would like on your favorite podcast, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and of course on our YouTube, or subscribe to our own channel.